lesson, we're going to be talking about asteroids. And the only objective of this lesson is to define an asteroid. Okay, so this should be easy. Two terms I'd like you to take away from this is what is an asteroid and what is a meteoroid. You should be able to explain them at the end of this video. All right, let's begin. So, an asteroid. Here's a picture of what an asteroid would look like. I think this is an artist's rendition. When we try and classify things in space, we struggle to come up with set rules. Okay, that's why we struggle so much with the idea: is Pluto a planet? Is it a dwarf planet? Is it an asteroid? What is it? Okay, so in astronomy, when it comes to saying, oh, everything is like this, we never do that. We always come up with it's kind of like this and sometimes like this. So I'm going to give you the general idea of what an asteroid is. Asteroids are generally defined as rocky objects found in space. And that's as vague as I can tell you. Okay, so it's an object in space. It's not necessarily a rock. It's sometimes got some metals mixed into it, but it's mostly rocky. So asteroids are objects in space that are mostly rocky. Okay, now, if you're smart, you automatically go, but then isn't Earth quite rocky? Wouldn't Earth classify as an asteroid? Well, Earth is a planet because it's too big. And that's immediately where we get into it's confusing, because then Pluto's too small to be a planet, but it's too big to be an asteroid. So then we have to come up with a new term called a dwarf planet. And there are some asteroids that are actually called dwarf planets that are still asteroids. So it's quite confusing. But all I want you to take away from this is asteroids are rocky objects out in space. They're not big enough to be planets, and if they get any smaller, they're called meteoroids. We'll get to that. Okay? Asteroids are usually bigger, and meteoroids are smaller rocky objects. So small rocks like that, like your fist or dust particles in space, floating around in space, those are called meteoroids, and they're called meteorites when they land on the Earth, meteors when they're in our atmosphere. They've got all these different terms. But all you need to know is big rocky objects are asteroids, smaller rocky objects are meteoroids. Okay, and if an asteroid gets big enough, we can call it a dwarf planet. So here's an example. Asteroids can vary in size. The largest asteroid in our asteroid belt, which is in our solar system, is Ceres, which is considered a dwarf planet. It's so big that it's an asteroid and it's a dwarf planet at the same time. It falls into two different categories. See, I told you that it can get a little confusing when we try and define something as this. Ceres is about 950 kilometers wide, so it's quite big, but it's also, compared to planets, it's quite small. But that's what an asteroid is. Some asteroids have actually been known to have diamonds in them. They have rocks, they have metals, and they have diamonds. And there's one that I want to tell you about now. I'm going to read an article to you just to tell you about how awesome some of these asteroids are. The asteroid known as 16 Psyche contains heaps of platinum, iron, and nickel alongside the gold that's already in this asteroid. The combined total value of all these precious metals would equal out to something like 700 quintillion US dollars. If you were able to bring this back to Earth and shed out the profits equally to everybody on Earth, it would make all 7 billion of us human beings on Earth, billionaires many times over. So yeah, asteroids are really cool to study. And there's a lot of them, and they're different sizes, and they're made of different stuff. But yeah, that's what an asteroid is. So have a fantastic day. Let me know if you have any questions.